marvellous year here on Kiwi.
You're listening to the Radio Wammo Breakfast, only on Kiwi.
All right, well, it's just hit the internet over the last 48 hours, a new online TV program called Throng TV from the folks at Throng.co.nz, which is New Zealand's TV watching communities, where you can go and sort of participate in discussions and learn about your favourite telly programs, or even discover stuff, really. The host behind it, or one of the hosts, is Hamish from Throng TV, and he's in the Kiwi studio this morning to tell us all about it. G'day, Hamish, how you doing?
Good, man. I've not usually been up this early, you know. It's kind of strange. I didn't think I was going to be, but apparently the stream's on the internet, and I haven't ironed my shirt.
And you worked up a sweat getting here.
Yeah, well, I live just down the road, so it wasn't too hard, I've got to be honest. But yeah, no, thanks very much for having me in, man.
Yeah, so I've watched the pilot episode this morning, clocking in at 25 minutes. Heck of an effort.
Thanks.
For an online venture. Tell us how this project started.
Well, I guess the project started with Regan Cunliffe, who's the editor. He started off doing Idol blog yonks ago when New Zealand Idol was on, and that sort of got great success, and then that developed into doing street talk based around Shortland Street, and then Regan was like, man, let's just branch out, you know. So he did Throng.co.nz. That's been replicated in Canada, Australia, and the UK, and it gets some pretty impressive numbers for an online publication. So that's how that happened. And then he's like, well, I really want to add some video content to this.
Yeah.
And he put out a casting call, and I went in and I auditioned, and they ended up sort of picking about 3 of us to come out of that. And yeah, I mean, we've kind of had to be more than presenters, that's for sure. But yeah, no, that's exactly how it happened.
So your involvement is directly into Throng TV rather than the site before?
No. I've integrated myself into Throng. You can check out my blog on throng.co.nz under the Hamish Coleman Ross banner.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you know, I'm writing for the site as well, but primarily my focus is the online TV show.
And so what draws you into it? Is it your passion for all things TV?
Yeah, it's a combination of that. You know, I love television. I have from day one. I don't know why. My parents aren't big TV watchers, that's for sure. But, you know, I guess it's just the generation that I grew up with.
It's about rebelling, you say.
I think so, you know. I sort of try and talk to mum and dad about television, and they sort of, you know, start looking to the other side of the room for something more interesting. But that's okay, you know, each to their own. But no, I guess I've worked in TV for a long time as well. And, you know, what kind of started to really irk me and get me about it was that you know, the industry sort of seemed to have this problem, and that's what we're addressing. You know, the show itself.
What's the problem?
Well, look, the problem is that this industry needs to celebrate, interrogate, and inform itself with a really positive spin at the end of the day. And you know, we've left too much up to the likes of print to be able to make commentary. And you know, the most insightful stuff that you probably get is the likes of Rachel Glosema, who writes for I Spy, you know, giving us a dish about Simon Vallow being drunk on the red carpet. I mean,
well,
what's that about?
The funny thing though is about you know, New Zealand, the New Zealand TV industry. It's so small.
It is. It's very much a cottage industry, and sometimes I think we lose sight of that. And
because we're, you know, the population of New Zealand is the size of a medium-sized city, you know, in America.
I've always loved the idea about, you know, New Zealand population. I guess for Kiwi FM, this is you know, a great tagline. But you know, there's like 4 million people in New Zealand. I think there's roughly about 4 million people in Singapore as well. And yet Singapore's the size of Lake Taupo.
Yeah.
So it's like take New Zealand and chuck it in. So you know, that aside, yeah, it's a really, really small industry, and I'm concerned about the lack of communication between the people within the industry themselves, you know.
Right. In what way?
Well, okay, here's a good example. We're at the Qantas Film and Television Awards. We're the only media there that really had any presence on the red carpet and for the after speeches and stuff like that.
Yeah.
We interviewed every winner, on camera. No other news source did that, despite having $114,000 from New Zealand On Air to do it.
Well, if they did do it, it would be either TV1 or TV3 interviewing their own stars.
Well, absolutely. But, you know, why could they not have done that?
It's kind of, isn't it media eating itself?
Well, there is that to an extent, so why not get somebody independent like us to come in and do it? Yeah, and that's the gap that we're bridging. But when I was talking to people at the event, you know, I had production people telling me, oh, you know, news doesn't really, you know, talk to us all that much. And then the news guys were, you know, as soon as the news awards were up, they were up at Stark's having a few beers out there, and they weren't really there supporting the production side. We were like, what's going on here? There's just not this communication within. And I guess as much as we're there for the fans, we're there for the industry as well. And slowly, they're starting to cotton on to this fact.
Yeah. So do you think fans are actually interested in that backroom kind of stuff. You know,
Yeah, absolutely, man. We eat and breathe all kinds of media that we can get, and the thing is that people don't necessarily watch networks. People watch shows. So we talk about shows. We don't talk about necessarily about networks. Yeah, we sure talk about, network politics because it impacts on the kind of programming that we get. But fans definitely, I mean, the amount of traffic that we get, the kind of responses and interaction that we get with people is incredible.
It's interesting you should say that, that people are watching shows as opposed to networks now, especially in the age of the internet where legally or illegally you can get the shows you want
Absolutely.
on demand as opposed to being tied into a particular TV show. That's a big issue, I guess, that the industry has to confront here in New Zealand.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the only way that they can really get into it is the programming, especially making sure that they get these shows, much quicker than they have been.
Which is crucial, really.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
Because Lost was basically broadcast here within the week or within 2 weeks of it being shown in the States. But it looks to me like Prime is losing out by broadcasting True Blood.
Yeah, it's funny you say that because illegally or legally, I watched the True Blood final. Actually, I finished watching it this morning. And it was fantastic, it was great, and Prime's just started. Now, it's not that I don't want to support Prime, don't get me wrong, I do watch shows on Prime from time to time, but I just kind of feel like, well, why do I have to wait 2 months before I get to see a really damn good show with, a damn good Kiwi actor in it too?
That's right. So a TV show that's made specifically for the web, is an acknowledgement that people are now turning to the web for their media?
Absolutely. When we were starting to put this together, we were saying, so what, now we're only going to be able to make the show 10 minutes long because that's a YouTube clip, or do we, fracture the show into different sections and people can watch what they want? And we're like, no, man, people do sit online and watch half-hour shows. Just look at the number of people that go on demand, for instance, to watch, whatever show's been showing, like Eating Media Lunch. I think they had a really big hit online. I know that things like Pulp Sport and 7 Days on TV3, I know that they get huge numbers the next day as well.
Moon TV have done specific internet-based shows on demand
exactly.
as well.
So we were like, look, the market is adjusted. The kind of people we're appealing to are the kind of people that will sit there and watch it.
Yeah. What's the style of the show? I mean, what's the format? What's the feel of it?
I guess the format of the show is just very easy breezy, but informative and entertaining. Really, we don't try to take ourselves too seriously. We try to have interaction with the people that post on Throng as well. But I guess we're going in and trying to ask the hard questions sometimes, or have the big laughs when it's necessary.
Are you taking the piss?
No, I don't think we are taking the piss.
Because you got an interview there with Mark Jennings, from TV3, head of news. Was he taking the piss? I was
no, he wasn't. He wasn't taking the piss one bit. No, that was a very, very straight up and down interview. I don't know how you can, take the piss out of something like the Let It Spray document, the Clayton Weatherston ordeal, or the John Campbell medals case. He was pretty candid and very animated in that interview, but I definitely wouldn't say anyone was taking the piss on that.
And what's your model for the show? I mean, how is it going to work longer term? Because it's not easy to put together 25 minutes of
No, it's not
video.
at all. No, we're looking to do it bi-weekly at this stage. A bit more funding, and we're trying to attract a sponsor in some degree. We can change the format from there, but at the moment it's bi-weekly. So we make sure that we have a pretty straight up and down interview with an industry leader, an industry head. Then we have Ben Cattell, who's going around and he's trying to get involved in the industry. So he's sort of doing a segment about how do the industry respond to young people trying to get into it. And it's a very rocky road, and it's kind of an interesting story.
And in the first episode, he finds it's quite closed.
He finds it's very closed, very, very closed. But I can tell you for a fact that the second episode, Ben might be looking offshore.
All right.
And then we have Dana Bose, who does this fantastic segment, one of my favourites, called The D-List, and she sort of decided that, well, you don't really need anything to get on television except a great placing on the alist.co.nz.
Yeah.
So she's been going to these socialite events and sort of lampooning them a bit. I mean, if anyone's taking the piss, it's Dana, but
she has taken the piss. Okay.
But people do love that, and I think her character is such that you could never take her seriously either. She's taking the piss out of herself at the same time.
Yeah. Excellent. Well, people can go and watch the first episode up at throng.co.nz, and there's also some sneaky trailers on YouTube as well. Excellent. Well, it's really nice to have a new venture like this on the New Zealand interwebs. It's certainly been a long time coming.
I'm glad you think so.
And Hamish, really nice to meet you, and look forward to episode number 2 as well.
Thanks for having me in, Wammo.
Track now from Stevie.